me take you this morning to Psalm 121. This passage stood out to me recently with some of the things I've experienced, and I trust that it'll be an encouragement to you. I'm also working on a message that, Lord willing, I'll be able to preach on Sunday the 23rd of October. But as we think about life's difficulties and trials, here's the thing. We all go through them. We all experience problems. And they range from, personal things that we struggle with, doubts and fears and anxieties, to relationship things that we all have with coworkers and family members, to financial stresses that people are going through that are very, very real at this very moment. And honestly, the source of the problem has a little to do with it, but the degree to which we overcome it is how we handle that, how we perceive it, what we do with that. And Psalm 121 was an encouragement to me, and even as I struggle personally with, what's next and what outcomes will doctor visits and x-rays play in my life in the next couple of weeks, I want to encourage you with this because it's so true. It doesn't matter what we're facing. God is still powerful and He is still sovereign. So let me read Psalm 121 and then share a few of the thoughts that have been a part of what I've been dwelling on and praying about here recently. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From whence comes my help? My help comes from the Lord, who made the heavens and the earth. He will not allow your foot to be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, He who keeps the entire nation of Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve you from evil. He shall preserve your soul. The Lord shall preserve your going out and your coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. So let me walk you back through this and just be encouraged today, because I know that we're in the battle together. We know that the Lord's return is near, and as time nears the end, Satan's influence and power and destruction becomes even greater. And so it makes life challenging to each of us. But it begins here in verse number 1. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. Honestly, there's a choice in the trial. You and I must understand the responsibility is on my shoulders to choose to look to the Lord. And the knowledge, of the source of my help is the end of verse 1 and verse 2. From whence comes my help? ? Verse 2, my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. There is a declaration of God's power and sovereignty in that statement. The one who made heaven and earth. If God could speak heaven and earth into existence, imagine how He can help me through my trial. This light affliction, as Paul and the New Testament referred to it, it's a momentary trial. Compared to the glory and weight of heaven, it's minimal. And so declare God's power and sovereignty by choosing to look to Him for help. And then in verse 3, he says, He will not allow your foot to be moved. There's stability in our faith. Pastor Mark last Wednesday was talking about faith and hope and how that is the anchor for our soul from Hebrews. Well, understanding in the midst of our trials and difficulties, our faith and our hope, when we look to the Lord, our eyes go to heaven. Colossians chapter 3, where do all these good things come from? They come from above. You and I can have a stability in our life, in our faith, when we do that. And then I love this, and he reiterates it in verse 3 and 4 about God will not slumber. And he says it in verse 3 as an individual promise, but then he says in verse 4, to the entire nation of Israel, God will not fall asleep during your crisis. And I know so many times it's like, where is God in my problem? Where is God in my crisis? And the problem is we zero in, we focus on our issues, our struggles, our difficulties, rather than put God in the center and focus on Him and let everything else revolve around that. And then he goes on in verse number 5, the Lord is your keeper. He's your guard. You can only imagine God standing outside the front door of your home as a guard, a keeper, a protector to your life, to your family, to your struggle. And that's what the psalmist is emphasizing, that you and I are in the midst of battles and struggles and difficulties. But the Lord, the one who made heaven and earth, is our keeper. He is the guard. And he says it in verse 6, the sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God is at work 24 hours a day, watching over, guarding, and protecting us. And then he uses in verse number 7, the Lord will preserve you. He will sustain you through the trial. And, honestly, as I share this devotional with you today, my heart is heavy. My health is not as great as it used to be, or hopefully will be at some point in time. And there's doubts and fears and anxieties over unresolved issues. But I must make the decision to look to the Lord, as I'm encouraging you to do the same. We are in life's battles together. We are here as a body of Christ, the family of God, the church of Jesus, to sustain and help and encourage each other to keep our focus on the Lord. And so back in verse number 1, I will lift up my eyes to the hills from whence comes my help. The Lord, who's the maker of heaven and earth. Have a great Friday. We will look forward to seeing you this weekend and then in the near future online here as well. God bless you.